Yo, 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 good morning and welcome into another Steelers Saturday Sit Down with Around the 412. I'm Smitty, that is Tyler of Around the 412. Tyler, how we doing this morning?
Doing pretty good. Last night was Halloween. Took my daughter trick-or-treating for the first time. It was actually
you
her
guys actually
second
did it on
costume.
Halloween. Ours is today.
Yes. Well, in Oklahoma, they do it a little bit differently, which I'm a little bit surprised by because I know that football is a big thing back home. And from what I understand, everything was based around football back home. So if Halloween fell on a Friday or a Saturday, we would have done it on Thursday. I don't know if you remember that too, but we never did it if on Halloween, if it was actually in Friday or Saturday. And so they don't do that here. And I also don't know if you remember like trick-or-treating. I felt like trick-or-treating was like between 6 and like 8 or 8:30, like kind of like an unwritten rule of time. But now, like here, it's just kind of like a free-for-all. Like you can really do it whenever you want. Absolutely wild to me that was the case. But yeah, I got to take my daughter trick-or-treating last night. We also had a trunk or treat for our church on Tuesday. So she got to be Minnie Mouse for that. And then last night, she has several cousins that were here, and it's a bunch of girls. The oldest is 8 all the way down to Sydney, who's 11 months old on Monday. And so they were the Spice Girls. And she was one of actually 2 baby spices because we got it. We had a scary spice, a ginger spice, a sporty spice, a posh spice, and then we have 2 babies that are within 3 months of each other, and so they were both baby spice. So that was fun. Got to go around with her for a little bit last night. Entertaining Halloween. I always enjoyed Halloween as a kid. I liked trick-or-treating, and I liked the idea of trick-or-treating. Like I think it's a very fun idea. Like I told Kennedy before, I want to be the dad that whenever we have our own place and we can do our own thing where our kids are old enough where they can go trick-or-treating on their own, but I can stay home and pass out candy. I want to be the type of person that's sitting on my front porch in a full get up of like Michael Myers and just like having some straw coming out of my sleeves with the bowl on my lap. So people like might think it's fake. It looks like a little stuffed dummy. And then not like do anything wild, but just when they reach for the bowl, just kind of like give my little head nod or like turn my head like Michael Myers does and give him a little freak out. That's something that I've always wanted to do. But yeah, Halloween was fun. It was good last night. What about you? First time as a homeowner, first time by yourself, passing out candy. Did you get many trick-or-treaters?
No, so I'm saying it got moved from it's tonight.
Oh, actually. It's tonight. It's tonight.
It's supposed to be Thursday. It's supposed to be Thursday, but it got rained out. So they moved it to tonight. So I'm curious to see what it's like on a weekend because, like, you know, especially because it was such late notice for them moving it. I'm actually going to have people at my house for something that's going on tonight. So I'm going to pass out for the first hour before they get here. And then I probably just leave the bull out. Hey, if kids are going to do what kids are going to do and take it when it's gone, it's gone. I do have a little bit to refill.
Something that's going on tonight, not acting like we don't know it's going to be the PLE that's taking place in Salt Lake City.
It's Saturday main event. Yeah. Yeah. So shout out. And Boston's in here right now. So just shout out to Utah in general. It's also a game day in Salt Lake. I know that they got a big one. Utah and Utah and Cincinnati. Game day in SLCB. You can find me watching AT412. These dudes rock. Give me hope for tomorrow, fellas. Well, not sure you're coming to the right place if that's what you're looking for. But all right, let's dive into this. We're 4 minutes in, and all we've talked about is Halloween and trick-or-treating. So the first thing that you said to me when you joined is, aren't I excited that I got to talk about this game, obviously, throughout the week on Steelers Afternoon Drive? And I don't know that we talked about it really at all on Around the 412. We mainly were just sulking in the Packers loss, I think, and saving this for today. And then get to do it on here. I'll be honest, like we had that conversation around the 412 about how we feel going forward in the season, and if like it's drastically changed the way that we view this team and stuff like that. And while I don't think that I'm exactly where you are, the first thing that I always do is try to find a path to a victory. And we're not getting to that portion of the show. We're giving predictions yet, but it is very hard to find the path to victory for the Steelers right now against this Colts team. Like the eighth most efficient offense, the 8th highest success rate for an offense this century, not decade, not over the last 5 years, not this year, this century. This is one of the best offenses coming in. And they have 4 turnovers on the year as a team. They have 1 fumble as a team and 3 interceptions as a team. It's unbelievable. This offense is unbelievable. And you look at the talent level, like I like their receivers. Jonathan Taylor's obviously one of the best backs when he's healthy. Daniel Jones. And I was asking DB about this yesterday. It's like you watch him on there's not like something that can explain it. Like it's not something that just seemingly got magically unlocked or anything like that. He's just playing unreal right now. And he's done it for nearly half of the season to the point where I don't know that we can just say, oh, it's just going to fall off at some point. And I think the biggest part about it that no one's really talking about is the offensive line. Unbelievable as well. I'm really excited to watch the match there up front in the trenches, honestly, on both sides, assuming that Grover Stewart's able to go in this one for Indy, because I just think it's going to be so fun to watch the battle in the trenches and see if the Steelers respond to that well. They haven't made, like, other than Quentin Nelson, who was a 6th overall pick years ago, they're all like 3rd and 4th round picks too. I mean, as pick, we're familiar with Mac and Salvis, their tackle, but like Bernard Ryman's a 3rd round pick. Tanner Bortolini was a 4th round pick, and he's playing unreal at center. Like these aren't guys that they invested a ton into, and they've been awesome up front for them. One of the best offensive lines in football. And I think that that's an unspoken about talking point when it comes to this offense, because we're so focused on Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, and those weapons. Tyler Warren, obviously, is a fantastic player. It all starts up front, though, and that offensive line is, I think, why this offense has totally been unlocked this year.
I agree 100%. I think that they are the unspoken heroes of the Colts season so far, and it gets overlooked a lot of the time. Like we talk about all the time, especially around draft time, like an offensive lineman, not necessarily the sexy pick to make, but it could be the best pick to make. And obviously they weren't picking some of these guys high, but they've been able to develop them and have a cohesive unit where they're playing really well together. And I think that that is the glue that keeps this thing together for the Colts, because we've seen what Daniel Jones looks like behind a poor offensive line. We saw it in basically his entire career in New York. I don't think that Daniel Jones is looking the same way he is right now if that offensive line is having a lot of miscues, but they're not. And that is why I think they're the unsung hero of this offense. Everybody wants to look to the receivers, Tyler Warren, Daniel Jones, JT. The offensive line has been incredible. And I think that's part of the fits that we're going to have on Sunday, is seeing what the Steelers defensive line is able to do against this offensive line. Are they going to be able to fill those gaps enough to stop Jonathan Taylor? What are they going to look like in pass rush? Because we haven't really seen the Steelers getting to the quarterback enough in the recent weeks. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But the offensive line has been fantastic. And Daniel Jones, I don't know where this came from. And I don't think that there is a easy answer to say like, oh, this was the only thing that he needed fixed. Like he looked like a broken quarterback whenever he was leaving New York. He comes to Indianapolis after a few short stints as the backup,
I literally
and
thought
looked fantastic.
I thought that Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard got themselves fired when they named Daniel Jones the starter this year. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, I would have thought, even if they would have picked Richardson, I thought the writing was on the wall. This was going to be the last season of that regime. They're probably, I mean, record-wise, they're the best. I think with the way that we've watched the Chiefs play over the last couple of weeks, I think fair to say they're probably the best team in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when it comes playoff time, if they were to go head-to-head, a lot of people are going to pick the Chiefs. But they're still within the top 4 or 5
that's best team. You're looking at the offense specifically, like making that decision at the quarterback position. You're talking about, like you said, 8th all-time, like historic.
Yeah.
That we don't talk about the Steelers defense being historic. Their offense is actually historic, and that's what we get to face on Sunday. It's going to be great. I mean, thinking about Daniel Jones just kind of being placed into this offense kind of reminds me of like a rookie Brock Purdy, because I feel like all the tools were there. The offensive line was there for Brock Purdy. The weapons were there, but all it took was, and I'm not saying that Daniel Jones is playing average, but all it took was like an average quarterback play, and you can function in that San Francisco offense. I feel like a similar route was taken with the Indianapolis Colts, where they got somebody who they thought could run the offense. Obviously, he won the job over Anthony Richardson, who has been a disappointment after being selected.
What an indictment on him. What an indictment on him this has all been, right? I mean, because not just because of the way that he played when he was in there, but then you watch somebody else like that was playing the way that Daniel Jones was prior to getting there, get placed in there and play the way he is. I mean, there's the argument, I think, now that he's like the worst first-round draft pick, or at least top of the first-round draft pick of like the last decade.
Yeah, it's got to be close. Obviously, you bank high on the athleticism, but it just hasn't panned out. But Daniel Jones, like I said, it's not apples to apples. It's not one for one, but it reminds me a lot of rookie Brock Purdy, where all of the essentials were there for him. He just needed to be placed into the offense, and he's executing it perfectly so far. Most efficient offense in the NFL, most yards per game, most points per game, averaging over 3 points per drive this season. Like, there is almost nothing wrong when you put this offense under the microscope. It is hard to find any flaws so far this season.
And it's crazy because like Shane Steichen, only 3 matchups, so small body of work, has had the Steelers number every time that he's gone against them. Obviously going back to 22 with Philly, and then the 2 matchups with the Colts. And you look at his quarterbacks in those games, Gardner Minshew and Joe Flacco, who he beat the Steelers with. And Joe Flacco and Shane Steichen together, I mean, that's like the ultimate boogeyman, I think, for this defense. But you saw it last year.
Someone said keep Richardson upright. They didn't want to see Flacco.
It's expanded now to like lead wide. Like they're doing this to everybody. And I think that that's the big difference is it's not just they have the answers to what the Steelers do defensively. They've had the answers to whatever anybody is throwing at them defensively. By the way, Drew will be in town tomorrow for the game, Drew and Zana. So maybe bake that into your prediction, knowing that Drew and Zana are going to be here for this one. I'm excited to see them. We'll get to this when we talk about the Steelers offense against the Colts defense. Joel having similar thoughts as to what Allen had. You know, Louis Anarumo has done wonders for them this season, but you look at Louis Anarumo defense against the Steelers offenses in the past, and very similarly to what we're talking about with Shane Steichen and stuff, the Steelers offense has had no issues moving the ball against Louis Anarumo defenses. So we'll see if that can come to fruition as well, and maybe the Steelers can keep pace for a little bit there. Going back to the Colts offense, though, I think that the one thing, too, is always on here, we like circle and identify like some key matchups. I think the problem with this one is like, who is even that guy? Like, I don't think that they have one guy that you look at that they have to funnel the offense through. And I say have to, because I'm sure that there's going to be somebody that stands out that becomes a quote. Maybe it's a Tyler Warren game with the way the Steelers have not been able to cover tight ends this year. Maybe that's where your mind goes. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, every time that he steps on a football field, I think it's a good bet to go over 100 as long as he's healthy. But you look at the receivers, and it could be anybody. It could be a Michael Pittman game. It could be Josh Downs game. Alec Pierce is having a great season. I think really like rounding into form as an overall receiver and not just a guy that can run streaks over and over again. So any one of those guys can get theirs. And I think that that's the scariest part about it is who do you even key in on when you look at this Colts offense?
I think that's the problem is, like I was saying, you put this offense under the microscope and you're not finding really any flaws, and you're also not finding any weaknesses as far as weapons go. And looking at what the Steelers the past few weeks have given up against opposing offenses, they haven't been able to stop the run. Well, great. There's a fantastic offensive line you're playing on Sunday with a great running back who I think is underrated because of like going into the season. I feel like Jonathan Taylor is almost forgotten about because everybody kind of views the NFL season in terms of fantasy football. And fantasy football, he is a good running back, but not looked at as one of those like elite echelon level running backs for a lot of people. And so I just feel like he's almost forgotten about going into this season, about how good Jonathan Taylor actually is when he's healthy and on the football field. And you look at what Tyler Warren has done so far this season. You look at what tight ends have do. Tucker Kraft just coming off of that game against the Packers.
And rookie tight ends typically stink.
Yeah, and looking what he's been able to do, the versatility that he has as a player. I mean, he's going to cause some problems for the Steelers, or he has the ability to. And then you mentioned the receivers, like they don't have necessarily that high-end level receiver on their offense, but they've got a couple of guys that can do some good things well. Like Michael Pittman is like more of your traditional like X-type receiver, but he's very versatile in what he can do on the field. Alec Pierce has developed into a great deep threat target, and Josh Downs is really good and really shifty out of the slot. Like the Steelers defense is going to have the hands full.
They don't even use A.D. Mitchell.
No, and that's someone that we were like salivating over that the Steelers were in a position to draft a couple years ago.
He
doesn't even see the field.
I mean, I know that he made that gaffe. He was one of the guys that dropped the ball before the end zone. That can't happen. I'd still sign up for taking a shot on A.D. Mitchell right now if the Colts wanted to move on from him.
Absolutely. And then above it all, you look at what Daniel Jones is doing, not just as a passer, not just as facilitating the offense, but he's also fairly mobile of a quarterback for like the guy that has been not necessarily a mobile quarterback, but like even back in his New York days, like good fantasy quarterback to have just because he'd pick up some like 50, 60 yards per game with his legs. So there's a ton of areas that this Steelers defense is going to have to cover. And looking at where they come from, not being able to stop the run. I mean, they did it against Packers, but it didn't really matter. They said that was the excuse for the passing game. It didn't really matter. So traditionally this season, not being able to stop the run well, not being good in coverage, I don't know where the Steelers should approach this as far as who to shut down first, because I don't even know that they're good enough to do it, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's got to be like you're making me pick if you can slow down the run game and give yourself at least a puncher's chance. I know that how Sunday night went, even with them remote, like pretty much shutting down the run game, or at least taking a massive leap there. That would be on it.
If you slow down the run game too, at least for how efficient the Colts offense has been, like you have to, if you're the Steelers offense, I'm talking about now, you have to finish in touchdowns and not field goals. You have to finish drives in points and not punts. For how efficient the Colts are, if they are able to dominate on the ground, that's just going to shorten the game for you and make it harder to even stay in this one.
Yeah, throw the ball so you're scoring quickly instead of, I mean, that does sound bad, but honestly, like that might be the best route. Like if the Colts score quickly, but the Steelers stay on the field longer and sustain drives, just shorten the game, take the air out of the ball, make it a game with as few possessions as possible. It at least gives you, like I said, a puncher's chance. I mean, the thing is, like from a personnel standpoint for the Steelers defense, we don't even know fully what we're going to have at our disposal in this one. We knew Deshaun Elliott's injury was going to keep him out for this week. He was placed on IR. I mean, it sounds like his season's over. From everything that I've heard, kind of like the messaging that's been put out there as well. They got Kyle Duggar, who's going to step right in and start. I think the big question is who's going to be playing safety next to him. I think it's going to be Jalen Ramsey. I mean, based off everything that I've heard coming out of practice this week. So then you look at the corner room, which I think that they were hoping they could really dial back Darius Slay's reps for everything that we've talked about this past week. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that now. I mean, you don't have Jabril Peppers either, who's dealing with a quad injury. He's already been rolled out. You're not getting Corey Trice back into the fold, which is just devastating, for him. I mean, can make jokes about it, whatever. Like, I understand the injury proneness part. I mean, as frustrating as it is for us, think about it for him, the one actually dealing with it. But yeah, it's not good. And then, Chuck Clark questionable with an illness that popped up. I don't know if there's something going around because Cole Holcomb missed Thursday and Friday, and then Chuck Clark missed Friday with an illness. So I don't know if something's going around there. I'd have no clue who's going to be at safety. Like I think it's going to be Duggar and Ramsey largely, but like you might only have those two and Thornhill even at your disposal for safety. I guess they would elevate somebody from the practice squad if Chuck Clark's not going to go. But then even then, like, is it Derek Forrest, who also just joined the team this week, being elevated from the practice squad? This is very reminiscent to me of like 2022 against Tampa Bay, the way that the secondary could look.
Yeah, I'm not really confident in what the safety position is going to look like. I mean, I feel like the injury to Deshaun Elliott is, you can't overstate it enough how much of an impact that is, despite how poor the secondary looked throughout this season. Deshaun Elliott, one of your four short tacklers, been on the back end in a secondary that looks like it has a lot of guys that are hesitant to actually make tackles. So you're losing that aspect of it, and like you're losing a leader on that defense. If Chuck Clark is not able to go, I guess it would be Ramsey and Juan Thornhill and Duggar back there. But Duggar's had what, 2 or 3 days of practice?
So regardless of Clark, I think it's Duggar at strong safety and Ramsey at free safety.
Okay,
as the starters. But I think when they go into diamond stuff,
I don't know how to feel about that because Duggar's been here for like 2 days. I mean, he's taken like the Minkah Fitzpatrick approach in 2019 and just coming up on the fly.
What I will
don't know
say
if he's going to have as much of an impact right away, but that's what we're dealing with.
Like, don't get me wrong, terminology is important because that's how you could end up with the miscommunication stuff. But just in terms of like what the defense does, like what they want to do, the Steelers are pretty similar to like the Belichick, Gerard Mayo stuff, which is why like he didn't fit the Vrabel stuff. So I think he's going to fit into the defense. Will it be this week immediately, just a few days after getting here? Will he have all the terminology down? I don't know. But I think he understands what they want to do defensively, and he's played in similar defenses. So from that aspect, I'm not necessarily worried about it. But yeah, like just from the number of bodies, like more than anything else. Like, and if you're asking Ramsey to play exclusively at safety, I've been pounding the table to see more Brandon Echols. But if he exclusively has to play slot, then that means you're going to see a bunch of Darius Slay still, or you're going to see James Pierre, which I think is certainly on the table too. I'm pretty sure he was getting a lot of run with the ones this week in practice, especially like when they were going into dime, in dime, which they haven't played like any of.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so I'll just say that this wasn't from Pat on everything. I promise, because I think a lot of people sometimes think that that's where I get information. That dude does not tell me anything. Like, hand on my heart, on my grandmother's grave, that dude does not tell me anything because he's afraid that I'll put it out, which he's probably right. So this is not from him. But this team has had 2 plays in dime. They have 2 total plays in their dime package going into this week. I think that they want to start playing more of it, so maybe they added more to that menu. But that's why they haven't played dime at all. They didn't have a package at all whatsoever for it.
Do you think that's personnel related, or do you think that's just like the scheme they want to fit?
I don't know. Because other than like you're asking, can Brandon Echols play like a linebacker? Can he play as like a sub linebacker? That would be the only reason to not, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Why
I think
they
you're
haven't seen it then?
Yeah.
Do you think that as far as like the personnel on the back end goes, does what you're going to see from the safe position change outside of seeing more dime potentially? Is it going to change anything as far as coverages go for the Steelers defense? Is it going to be still like a lot of cover 3? Hopefully not a lot of man, because I feel like the Colts offense would torch them. But
the Steelers have a lot of problems, but I think like historically one that they've had is being too stubborn. Like they don't understand when they have personnel issues, or at least don't want to admit when they have personnel issues, and they just assume they can play the same way regardless of who's in there. I think hopefully they understand that they can't this week and play more of the country cover 3 that is so frustrating to watch, and they'll get dinked and dimed down the entire field just to end up giving up 3, and hopefully Ben don't break. Just hold them out of the end zone. I think you settle for that at this point, based off what you've seen from the defense. So, yeah, don't play your a bunch of cover 1. Don't play cover 0. Like, I don't think that they can man up with this team. I don't think when healthy they can man up with a lot of teams, but certainly not right now with everything that they got going on with all the moving pieces. So, I would
play cover 0 for 1 play. Alec Pierce is getting a touchdown. I promise.
Yeah. I think that I would agree with that. All right. So we've spent a lot of time talking about this side of the ball. I think we got to talk about the Steelers offense going against the Colts defense. So the Colts defense, if you just look like baseline numbers, they're like 6th in points given up or whatever, which is still pretty strong. You watch them play, they look okay. There's just I still think they're very attackable. I don't think that their linebackers are very good. I don't think that they can cover. They brought in Jermaine Pratt, who we're also very familiar with from Louis Anarumo's defense in Cincinnati. He ain't covering anybody, certainly not the Steelers tight ends. When there's no Mooney Ward, I think you look at the corners, and outside of Kenny Moore, who's been a very good safety in the nickel for a long time, no one really scares you. And on the back end, I like their safeties because they can get turnovers. But in terms of coverage, they lose guys a bunch too. Like Cam Bynum is a very good player. He'll take the ball away, but he takes a bunch of chances to try to do so. So you can get him sometimes because of where his eyes go. So, if you can get him maybe like on a pump fake, on a double move or something like that, maybe he loses somebody there. Kai Blackman is a good player. Nick Cross is awesome too. Like with the things that they do with him, they'll send him on pressure sometimes. They can play him at all 3 levels. So did I, but at the same time, like I thought it was a pretty massive leap for the Colts to go up as far as they did to get him. Like they gave up a bunch to move up as early as they did in the second round to get him. And I think you can get him in the run game. Like DeForest Buckner is an awesome pass rusher on the interior. The run game stuff hasn't been great, and Grover Stewart's been banged up. He's questionable in this game. I assume that he's going to play. He's given the Steelers problems in the past, but I think you can get him in the run game, and I don't like their edges in the run game either. I mean, they're okay even as pass rushers. They're not like household names. Leatu Latu's a good player. Kwity Paye's a good player, but they don't set the edge great in run defense. Both of them were first-round picks, and I think if you think about that, if you attach a first-round pick to them, you're a little bit disappointed by what they've done. But like they're good players. They haven't taken that leap yet, at least. Even though I think Leatu Latu has 2 interceptions, which is kind of wild.
That is wild.
But yeah, I think in the run
sacks.
game, Joel just mentioned they're susceptible in the run game as well, so he feels like that. We'll see. So I think that they are gettable for sure, and I think that they're going to have to be. The Steelers are going to have to put up points. They're going to have long drives, putting up 7 instead of 3. And I know that we say this a lot, right? We either seem to go to the tight ends or we go to the running backs, but it really feels like a Jaylen Warren game out in space, whether it is running the ball to the perimeter and getting those guys out, which are not very good athletes in space, the linebacker position and corners that I think that we can block up. Or it is in like the screen game as well, getting the ball out of Aaron's hands quickly to Warren in the flat, maybe some Gainwell as well. And please, for the love of God, at least give Caleb like a series as a runner. Like you got to get him in there and get him some touches, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think you got to try to run the football against this team. We'll see how it goes. I think you got to commit to it. At least the first 2 drives of this game, you got to run the ball and knock it away from it. Now, it could get into a case where the game gets out of hand and you can't really do so, and you got to throw to stay ahead. But at least early in this one, you got to be able to try to run the ball and see if it works for you.
Well, yeah, and talking about the last point you just made, I feel like when you look at the Colts being, what are they, 29th in passing yards allowed per game, I feel like a lot of that is because
they're knocking on third down.
Well, and I think that the Colts defense isn't that great, but also a lot of these teams are playing catch up. So they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. So the disparity between the Colts run defense versus what their pass defense, as far as yards given up allowed per game, there's a big disparity there, because I think the Colts are like 7th, 8th in the NFL in rushing yards per game, and then like 29th in passing yards per game. And that's because they are scoring a ton of points offensively, and teams are forced to be able to put in those passing positions. They're not really running the football. I think the Steelers have the offense to be able to beat the build of this defense. And I know we sound probably like a broken record saying this, because we talk about how much Jaylen Warren can impact these defenses and how much the tight ends usage can be impacted. But you look at what the Steelers have been given each week, and I don't think that we've been lying. I don't think that we're saying the same thing just to keep saying it. I think that this Colts defense is susceptible to the run, like everybody is in the chat is saying, like you were saying. I don't think that their defensive line is impressive. Even like a guy like DeForest Buckner, who's been doing it for a long time, he's still good in the pass rush from that defensive tackle spot, but I don't really think that he's really threatening you much in the run game. And you look at the linebackers for the Colts defense, Jermaine Pratt, who people should be familiar with from Pittsburgh from his days in Cincinnati, Zaire Franklin. I feel like they're not good in coverage, and so that lends to believe that this could be a big game for the tight ends as well, especially because we see that we're going to have that continuation of the jumbo package, even if the Isaac Seumalo is not going to go. And you look at what the tight ends do in the pass game. We have multiple tight ends in several times a game. That's why wide receiver 3 almost non-existent for a lot of this season, because of how many tight ends the Steelers use. It just lends itself to believe that the Steelers can get past this defense. And like you said, the one, I guess you could call it a bright spot of the Colts defense, their secondary, their safeties, they could be ball hawks. But like you said, their eyes can get lost in coverage, and they can lose their guys a little easily. So I feel like this is the type of game where the Steelers have to play catch up, but they're playing a defense to be able to do so. And if they continue to run Jaylen Warren like they are, like you said, they may not be able to do that the entire game, depending on what the other side of the football is doing for the Steelers. But look at last week, where they were so efficient in the first half running the football with Jaylen Warren, and then it went cold in the second half. Why they went away from it, no idea.
When they had the lead, I mean,
makes zero sense still why they went away from it. But you could still attack that in this game. You have been on the record saying that Jaylen Warren is their best offensive player so far this season. and they need to continue to pound him. I would like to see Caleb Johnson get some pause. I would like to see Caleb Johnson get some run as well. Like, even if it's not an entire series, like, get him some red zone usage. Like, I feel like that could be the area where they could unfold him. But regardless, I think that the Steelers, albeit playing the best team in the NFL or one of the best teams in the NFL, playing the best offense in the NFL, they're not playing one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think that the Colts defense has been a benefactor of playing with the Colts offense. And I feel like they could get exposed by the Steelers. The Steelers just have to be just as efficient as the Colts offense is. And that's going to be a tall task to have. Like, you have to finish these drives. Like I said earlier, got to finish, instead of field goals, you got to finish in touchdowns. Instead of punts, you got to finish in points. There's no way around it. When you're playing the Colts offense, you have to be able to keep up. The benefit is, I think the Steelers have the offense to be able to keep up, especially specifically against this Colts defense. I think it's designed to. I think that, and like we said, Jaylen Warren could have a good game in this one. The tight ends, I feel like, based off the linebacker coverage, going to get a lot of usage. And the secondary doesn't scare me. You saw a good, like, I guess you can call it a breakout game from Roman Wilson last week. I'd like to see him involved more. I'd like to see some deep stuff with DK Metcalf, but even like some of the crossers over the middle with DK Metcalf, because of the how the middle of the defense looks for the Colts, I feel like there is areas that the Steelers can attack. It's just, can they actually keep up with what's happening on the other side of the ball?
I think it's going to be a lot about the second or third guy in the passing game for the Steelers, because I don't think that they have a guy that one-on-one can take away DK Metcalf. I just think that they're going to put so many resources into slowing him down. So you're going to need a Calvin Austin or a Roman Wilson or a Pat Freiermuth or a Jonnu Smith, but probably a lot of those guys, probably all those guys, to step up in this one and be that second, third, fourth option in the passing attack, assuming you have to go to that and do have to play catch up and can't just rely on the run game because you're not playing ahead. You look at the Colts, to your point about the position that their defense has been in. So they have 7 wins this year already, 7-1. 5 of those wins are by at least 14 points. They only have 2 games in which they were 1 possession wins, which is crazy. So
if you love, as a defense, you love having a good offense. Not only does it keep you off the field, but it puts less pressure on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they beat the Broncos by 1 point, and we all know how that happened with the botched field goal stuff in that one. They beat the Cardinals by 4 a couple weeks ago, and those are their only 2 wins by 1 possession. And then their one loss was a 7-point loss to the Rams. Other than that, 33-8 over the Dolphins, 41-20 over the Titans, 40-6 over the Raiders, 38-24 over the Chargers, and 38-14 over the Titans. That's the other thing I'm not trying to take away from this team whatsoever. But listen to those names that I just read off. Their schedule's also been very weak. And it's because, like, they weren't that good last year. They've already played the Titans twice. They've already had both those matchups. So we are going to find out more about this team as we go down the stretch here. Steelers, Falcons, Chiefs, Texans, Jaguars, Seahawks, 49ers, Jaguars, Texans is their remaining schedule. Not that that's like a murderer's row or anything like that, but it's definitely a step above the competition that they've played up to this point, outside of the Rams, Chargers, and Broncos. Like, think about it. Dolphins, Titans twice, Raiders. Those are 4 games against 3 teams that are to be picked in the top 5 that they played already.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're feasting, but they're feasting on bad competition, which is what good teams do. They blow out bad teams, and that's what the Colts have done. I'm just saying, I think that there's going to be a level of competition that they're going to step into that they haven't faced yet, and we'll see what the response is from them. Okay, we can get into some predictions now. You guys know the drill at this point: offensive, defensive, and of course a score. I think we've set the table for the way that we think this one's going to go, and I don't know. I think that we actually did a better job of maybe making it seem like the Steelers do have a puncher's chance in this one prior to, and didn't spoil our picks. Maybe a better job than I did yesterday on the afternoon drive in terms of doing so. So we'll go back and forth. I'll start with Steelers offense, then you'll do Steelers offense, and then just go Steelers defense before I get my defense, so on and so forth. You guys get it at this point. I just talked about how I think there needs to be a second or third option in this passing game to step up for the Steelers in a game where I think they're going to have to throw the football to keep up with this offense. And I think that they're going to throw so many resources at shutting down or at least slowing down DK Metcalf in this one, because I don't think they have one guy that can do that job. Talked about a mini breakout last week for Roman Wilson. I think he scores again this week. So that's my bold prediction for the offense. I don't necessarily think he's going to have like a high volume game by any means, but I do think that game, if you're looking for a silver lining, not only along with the way that this offensive line is really starting to come together, I think at this point, I think that's it, is the way that Roman Wilson played in that one and getting some box score production to look at and maybe build his confidence. So I don't think he's going to have a high volume game by any means, but I do think he finds the end zone for a second straight week.
He's going to have 5 catches for 1 yard and 3 touchdowns. Little Jerome Bettis throwback. I like that. I mean, even if he doesn't have a high volume game, like just the fact that he would find the end zone again, getting him more confidence, getting him rolling in the offense more. I think that's something that the Steelers need going down this tougher stretch of the season that they're going into. I like that. My bold prediction is all offensively is going to also involve the offense. It's also going to involve a receiver, and I'm going to say specifically, Calvin Austin is going to score a touchdown of 40-plus yards or more.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like that you're giving a yardage on it as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a deep threat. He's going to beat somebody in coverage down the field.
Probably should have brought up as well, talking about this Colts offense, that they lead the league in explosive plays. Steelers have obviously given up a bunch of explosive plays. The Packers are very good. I think they're top 3 as well. But yeah, keeping a lid on things is certainly going to be big in this one. I think the Steelers are going to have to kind of match that. I think they can find them for sure in the run game. Can they find them in the passing game? If your bold prediction comes true, that's certainly one way.
Yeah, for sure. Defensively, I honestly have a tougher here. I think we get a big man TD from Broderick or Troy.
See, you should have.
I would think it's Spencer Anderson. Exactly. Yeah. Spencer Anderson would be the shout, because you saw the one reception for 4 yards last week. He's that guy that's been playing that eligible receiver role in those jumbo packages. Mm-hmm. So
you know what's cool? They're averaging like 7 yards per run out of that. The thing that I think is cool now that we've seen it like multiple weeks in a row, and I think like throwing the ball to Spencer Anderson is certainly an indication of this. They are like building off of it. Like they wanted to get good at just like the basics of it, but I think that they're starting to branch out in terms of what they can do out of that formation. So maybe to Joel's point, maybe they'll end up like having Spencer Anderson play in one of those tackle spots instead of Broderick or Troy. That's one of those guys that end up like they switch spots or something for a snap. So we'll see, but it's been fun.
That would be wild. But yeah, defensively, I feel like when it comes to coming up with bold predictions for this one, it's harder to think about positive ones of a bold prediction because of what they're going to be going against with the Colts offense. However, I think that because of what we talked about with the safety position, where we think Jalen Ramsey is going to be covering the free safety, I think he gets a takeaway in this one. I think he gets an interception from that free safety spot, jumps on the football, and comes down with the takeaway.
So, well, we both have turnovers being a part of this, and we mentioned that the Colts have 4 on the season. 3, so they're averaging half of a turnover per game right now, this Colts offense. And Jonathan Taylor has not lost a fumble yet this season, which has never happened. I mean, he's a guy, when he came into the league, I don't know if you remember, like, conversation surrounding him is great player, puts the ball on the ground a lot coming out of Wisconsin. And then, like, early in his career as well, it was like 3 or 4 per season. I think last year he only had like 1, but he also played a little bit less last year, the ankle thing that he was dealing with from the previous year as well. I think he loses a fumble in this game. He does not yet have one. It's the first time in his career that through the first half of the season, he has not lost at least 1 fumble. I think it's due. Jonathan Taylor's losing. Somebody forces a fumble in this one. If you're making me pick the player, I'm going to say it's a punch out from like the defensive line. I'll go Cam Hayward. Punches it out. Yeah.
I like it. I mean, that would both of these things would benefit the Steelers. That eliminates one drive that the Colts wouldn't be able to get points. And we talk about how I mentioned that the Colts are averaging 3. It's like 3.25 points per drive so far. Mm-hmm. If you're able to at least eliminate for one of those drives, that gives the Steelers a better puncher's chance in this one.
That's like super impressive that they averaged 3.5 or 3.25 points per drive, but it's like one of those things that doesn't sound all that impressive until you like really think about it. And then
Until
like,
you really
wait,
think about how many
have in a
times
game?
do you punt in a game?
Yeah, right. And how many drives you have? Oh, wait, you have like 10 or 11 drives. Well, that's over 30 points then.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
So, yeah. But Joel, I didn't want to take that away. Joel said Cam does have Nelson's number, so a strip sack fumble maybe. So Daniel Jones maybe fumbling the ball.
Daniel
there.
Jones time to throw 2.61 seconds so far this season. So
the play of
a little
the
bit
offensive
slower
line,
than Joe Flacco, but
yeah, with the play of the offensive line, like if he wants to, some of the play action stuff, he will sit back there. I want these pass rushers to have a chance. I think a lot of people are super down on the Steelers pass rush right now, and I get it because there's like not been the production. But if you look at like the pressure, like the time to pressure, the Steelers are still like top 5 in terms of what their edge duo is getting when they're getting to the quarterback. It's just the ball's released already. The Steelers
when
cannot
the ball's
cover
gone
anybody.
in 2.5 seconds. I don't care if you have Lawrence Taylor. They're probably not getting to the quarterback.
The way that they can be disrupting the game that we are not seeing right now is getting their hands on the ball at the line of scrimmage, batting down passes if the ball is going to get out quick. That's been the one thing that hasn't been there that could have been with the way that they've been attacked so quickly. Yeah, they haven't stood a chance in terms of getting to the quarterback.
I mean, I think was it you a couple weeks ago after they played the Bengals where you said that with Joe Flacco's time to throw, you could have gone unblocked and you still wouldn't have made it to Joe Flacco?
Yes. I could have gone unblocked and been given like a 3-second head start. And I wouldn't have been able to get to Joe Flacco. So, yeah. All right. Final score in this one. This is actually, I believe, the most lopsided game that I've predicted since we started doing this. Brooklyn, I don't know if you just got here, I would just leave at this point. This is not a great time to be joining again. I appreciate your positivity while everyone is freaking out. I agree that it can't hurt. I appreciate your optimism. And what I will say is, I'll be honest. I think that there's a way that we come out of this game depending on how they look. And while I'm not, into the, moral victories or anything like that, if they pass the eye test in this one, play pretty well defensively, hold them down, the offense is moving the ball, and they just don't get the result at the end of it, I think I'll at least feel better about going forward after that game. But I don't know that I necessarily see that happening. So I got the Colts winning this one 34-16 on Sunday.
Dang. Not only covering, like they're running the Steelers
out
of the stadium.
They're covering about was that 18 points they're covering about 6 times. 5-6 times.
That's crazy. I mean, not crazy because I don't think it can happen, but like that, if that happens, that would be massively disappointing, especially for you.
You remember
sitting in the stadium.
You remember how the Fire Canada chants were floating around?
Yeah,
I think it's just starting to get pretty loud.
With Austin or Tomlin?
Yes.
just a sea of both of them. You can't tell what they're saying because they're saying 2 different names.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If that happens, before I get my prediction, if that happens, you're going to be at the game, obviously.
Yeah.
Are you staying the entire time?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know how.
I'll be with our boy.
Games.
I'll be with our boy Crouton. Very hilarious nickname. I know his actual name is Justin, and he's never gotten the opportunity to go on the field or anything like that. We're doing that afterwards. So
got it.
I'll be staying. I'll be staying regardless. Yeah.
Now, if you weren't going on the field after, does that change anything?
No, I mean,
have you ever been one to leave us because you've been a season ticket holder, no flex, but for like what 5 or 6 years now?
This is 6. No, this is.
I think it's 6. Yeah, 6 seasons.
7.
7 seasons.
7.
Yeah,
but 1 year I didn't get to go to the games, so
yeah, that's fair. Have you ever been a type of person if the Steelers just have no chance of winning, they're getting blown out or something? Like, have you ever left the stadium early?
It wasn't because of the game, but like the weather. The Cardinals game, 2023, there was two different weather delays. So like when the second one happened, we were like, yeah, we're leaving. So I guess it was kind of the way that the game was going compounded with the fact that there was a second weather delay. Like, yeah, sorry. we're out of here. But like, if it wasn't raining at all, I would have stayed. Listen, like, not to make it sappy or emotional or whatever, but like, I understand the position that I'm in, that not everybody else gets to enjoy this thing like the way that I do. So I don't take any of this for granted. Like, I love being there. I get to do it 8 or 9 times a year. I'm going to soak in and enjoy every moment, even if the moment kind of sucks in the moment, because I'll look back on it fondly afterwards.
Well, if your prediction is true, it would suck. And I'm curious to see how what your what your mentality would be like in that fourth quarter, if you're even paying attention to the game anymore, or if you're just kind of like sitting there.
So the way that I have this playing out, though, I think the Steelers are going to be throwing the ball a lot. So, it could be fun to see if Roman Wilson is able to do something similar to last week, where he gets, a bunch of production in the second half. Maybe our boy 88 gets a bunch of ballooned stat padding production in the second half if this game goes this way. I don't want it to go this way whatsoever.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they're going to lose the game, I hope that it is competitive so we can feel better about it going forward. Because I do think that that's a very real possibility. Is, again, I'm not looking for moral victories, but if they play pretty well and lose this game, I think it at least gives us a little bit more confidence about what they can do the following week against the Chargers and beyond that.
I think that's fair. All right, I'll get to my prediction now. Been stalling it long enough. I think that the game will be a little bit closer to what you have it at, but despite what we said this entire show, I don't have a lot of confidence going into this game. I feel like the inefficiencies of the Steelers defense paired with what the Colts efficiency on offense has been so far this season is leading into a head-on collision with a semi-truck. And I just don't have any trust in the secondary being able to stop what the Colts are going to throw at them. And then if you mix that with if the Steelers have a bad day with the ground game and not being able to stop that with JT either, it could be a long day on Sunday. Albeit, I think it could be a little bit closer of a game than a lot of people may expect, just because I feel like the opportunity is there because of the Colts defense. And I think the Steelers offense has the weapons to be able to do so. Ultimately, I do have the Colts winning this one too. It's tough for me because I like when at least one of us is picking the Steelers, hoping that we're right. And if we're different, like if you picked the last week, when you picked the Packers,
Brooklyn shot us covered. She'll pick the Steelers.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully someone will pick the Steelers in the chat. But yeah, I think the Colts are going to win. I think that they're going to be more efficient. They're going to finish more of their drives and points than the Steelers are going to be able to, even though I think that the Steelers are going to move the ball better than a lot of people would probably think. I am going to say this Colts are winning this one 31-24.
Okay. All right. I don't love the Colts going over 30 still, but if we put up 24, probably feel similar about it as the Packers game. I think. I mean,
hopefully we run Jaylen Warren in the second half at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I have much else to say.
She's picking them every week to win.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. I love that optimism.
You're going to be an attachment of us then. So when we say that we lost we can never say that we lost across the board. Basically. Because so we know Brooklyn's going to pick the Steelers every week. So like, for example, next week, Steelers Chargers, we could both pick the Chargers and feel okay about it. Now what we can't do is when we have like Steelers Dolphins, Steelers Browns or something like that, one of us is going to have to pick that other team.
See, I don't like that.
No, it just can't go this way. Somebody's got to pick the Steelers, and we know that Brooklyn will. Yeah, I got you. Player intros will be defense this time. Yeah, so that's always people on YouTube enjoy that anyway. I should have been doing that. I didn't realize like how the way that the views would go for those. I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and you got a good view of it too from your seats.
Yeah, it is cool from the side. I don't like the way that it looks like either straight on or behind. I think you got to kind of be on the side for one of those. But all right, good stuff. All right, well, actually, you know what? Let me ask you the same thing that I asked DB and Allen to end yesterday's show, because I typically don't do this. But being that we're both picking the Colts and I have it being pretty lopsided, what is, if there is one, the path to victory for the Steelers in this one? Like, do you think that it exists?
If there is one, it's going to be, I don't want to say nearly impossible to find, but they got to dig deep to find this one. If there's a path to victory, I would imagine that it involves, similar to last week, but it turns out more in their favor, like being able to stop the run and being able to limit Jonathan Taylor. I think that shortening the game with Jonathan Taylor getting going on the ground is not the way the Steelers can win this football game, because they're going to have to keep up with points. And I don't necessarily think, even despite what we were saying, how I think that they could be pretty good against this Colts defense, I don't necessarily think that they're going to be as efficient as what I expect from the Colts offensively, which is why shortening the game with Jonathan Taylor on the ground is not going to benefit the Steelers at all. If they can stop him, I think that they at least give themselves more of a puncher's chance in this one, despite what the secondary may look like for the Steelers.
I love that we've been using that so much.
It's true. It is true. Like, when you look at just how efficient the Colts offense is, you got to keep up somehow. And I think that if you're able to limit JT on the ground and give the Steelers enough drives to give them a chance to be able to stay in the game, that's where I see it. And I think that you're going to have to, like, you and I both are bold predictions for defense, both have some takeaways happening. Like, you're going to have to take away the football. You're going to have to luck into some of those and get those bounces the right way. But that's where I see it. Like, I don't think that I'm not honestly not really worried about the offense a ton in this one. I think that they're going to move the football. I think that they'll put up some points offensively. The defense, and I think that this is not really breaking news to anybody, that's the bigger concern. And that's shocking at this point in the season that is the biggest concern. But being able to limit them enough to give the Steelers a chance to stay in the game is where I see it. And I think shortening the game with Jonathan Taylor on the ground is probably the worst thing that could happen. So if I'm picking one thing, you got to get the defensive takeaways. You mentioned a Jonathan Taylor forced fumble. That could be the case. And then limiting him on the ground, not being able to just allow the Colts to run this one out of the stadium.
Yeah, I think they got to win the turnover battle for sure. Like, any shot to win this one, they got to win the turnover battle.
Steelers got to be perfect turnovers, I think.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not the chance of you forcing multiple on a team that only has 4 on the season, especially when the Steelers haven't forced one in 14 quarters, pretty slim. So if you get one, you can't turn it over at all. And on the Steelers side of things, you're talking about stopping Jonathan Taylor. I think we got to run the ball into the ground, take the air out of it, make this as few possessions as possible. We talked about the Colts averaging 3.25 points per drive or whatever it is. So you got to keep them to like 7 or 8 possessions in this one in total, as opposed to 10 or 11 possessions in this one. And how do you do that? You keep your offense on the field, you sustain drives, long drives, but then them in 7 and not 3. That to me is the only way that they got a shot in this one. They got to win this. They got to keep it below 30. I think if you get into the 30s, that's where I give them no shot to be able to keep pace with the Colts. Mm-hmm. So if the Steelers win this one, it's probably to be something like 24-20, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Hopefully this time I don't got to buy everybody a PS5.
Yeah, 2020. That was 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, what a throwback.
Brooklyn said she wants a shout out if they win. Absolutely, we'll make that happen. I'll give you a shout out right now. These right over my shoulder, those pictures of the towels on the beach, those are from Brooklyn. So she's well represented in the studio here. But all right, we're gonna get out of here. Appreciate you guys for being here, whether you're in the live chat or you're commenting back, watching it back, or listening back. This does go up on the audio platforms, despite what last week might tell you. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, of course, so you know when we go live every week for Steelers Saturday SItDAHN, or when we upload a new episode of the Steelers Show, Penguin Show, or at some point in the future, another Pirate Show. But we appreciate you guys for being here. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. Those are in the description, of course, all the links to them. It's just we gotta talk through this matchup, but we never have time to take for the sponsors. But you guys know who they are. They're in the description of the show. So be sure to check them out as well. Enjoy the game. And despite what our predictions are, obviously we're hoping for the best. So for Tyler, for Smitty, this has been another Steelers Saturday SItDAHN. And here we go.